I'm Mahdi Shaheeb Sher. My website is www.shaheeb.com. I think one of my interests in the world is China in the world and the rise of China. I think that China is a new force in the world. It's a new power. It's a superpower in the world. It's kind of rivaling America in the world. So I think that it is a rival to America. And I think with the rise of China, we've seen a different world emerge. It seems to be more of a China world. And I think that if you look at this modern age as we see in 2025, it does seem to have characteristics of a China world. I think we've still retained maybe half of the old world, but I think we do have maybe 20% of a China world in the current world as it stands in the present day. So I think that China is very important today as an economy, as a military power, but also politically as a communist country. It's also quite powerful and influential. I think it's kind of the future of communism in the world. It's kind of made communism Asian in a lot of ways. So I think China does represent communism into the far future. And I think that communism is more like an Asian communism. So it is quite important for the future. I think maybe communism does have a role to play under China as a superpower in the world. I think it will have an increasing influence in the world over the coming years, and I think that it will play a role as communism. And I think that China's role as an economic power perhaps fits into its identity as a communist country. So I think that's how it really balances within China. I think that China does fundamentally see itself as a modern nation, kind of maturing into the modern world. But ultimately, I think it does identify itself as a communist country. And I think that communism is very sacred to Chinese people and to China. So I think that China is perhaps more important than any economic benefit that China hopes to gain from the West and from the world. I think China can be quite satisfied with communism alone, but I think today, as we find the world and as we find China as a superpower in the world, it is developing its economic means and resources. It is a rival to America and also Western nations as well. It has a significant military, which includes million man armies, which the West doesn't really have or you can't really deploy. But I think when you look at China, it might have five of these million man armies, and that's quite significant because it shows that China can put to the field large armies on a very significant population level, 1 million armies at a time, and maybe 5 to 10 of them. And these can kind of spread all over Asia and Europe, um, maybe quite rapidly to a certain extent. But I think that's the power of the Chinese military, that it can actually mobilize large populations of infantry and that can perhaps be more mobile and more nimble than perhaps tanks and aircraft and ships. So I think it can outpace Western military by its own advantages. And I think China has the means, as a very large country, with a billion population within China. There's a billion Chinese people in China. So I think that that's quite significant. It's a very large country by territory and also by population. It's known as a sleeping giant because China's always been seen as a giant in the world. I think it's always been a large country with lots of people doing lots of things. And there's never been a giant in the world to perhaps look on another giant that's like China than perhaps America is currently doing. And I think America is also perhaps a giant kind of looking into China as also a giant, as a power. So I think that these are kind of a battle of titans and giants. The kind of sleeping giants in somewhere, in some kind of remarkable things. But I think ultimately that they are large countries. The United States is a very large country. Um, China is a very large country, and we also have Russia as well, which is also a large giant of a country, and that's a large country. And I think these are mainly the three giants we have in the world. But we have other fast rising large countries who can perhaps develop into giants in their own right within the world. But I think that China is a large country in the world, not a small one. It is kind of a sleeping power because it's always been asleep in the world rather than awake. And I think in the last 15 years, it has been kind of awakened from its slumber, from its deep sleep, and its restfulness. And it's kind of gained some kind of wakefulness that has created an economic kind of fortitude within its character and allowed it to develop into a superpower. It's now become a superpower in its early stages. And I think that it can continue to develop as a superpower and rival America. And it can, with its own intelligence, thought, and knowledge, a base of knowledge, and its own history and culture, quite dominate America. I think China does have the capacity to dominate America because ultimately, America is a young country without much history, without much culture, without much knowledge or literature or science. But when you compare it against China, China does have over 2,000 years of culture and history. It has significant science. It has a lot of kind of literature and learning and understanding that has shaped the world on many occasions in the past as well. This isn't the first time China has kind of awakened in the world as a power to kind of give its wisdom and hope and vision to the world and its kind of principles to the world. I think it has on the past maybe 3 to 5 times on previous occasions in its history kind of risen up from its sleep and kind of given its lessons to the world as it's seen is perhaps prudent for the world and given those intelligent kind of concepts to mankind, and it's kind of disappeared into its own corner and background in the world, um, and perhaps a backyard in the world. But I think that China has now become fully awake, and now that it is awake, that we are likely to see a very different world, a very changed world. And I think that this world is likely to come under the weight of China. I think it's increasingly going to come under the colour, influence, and character of China within this world. I think it can be seen today in the way that the world looks and moves and pivots. I think that the world does have a Chinese character. It does have a Chinese flavour as well, and a distinctive Chinese yellow and red colour. So the world is very much Chinese at the moment. It's becoming more powerful in that way. And I think a lot of other countries and continents like Africa, South America, maybe Australia have come under the sway of China, have come under the influence of China, and perhaps are kind of moving along with the tide of China. So I think China is swallowing up the world. It's kind of swallowed up half of Europe as well, and maybe a quarter of America. So it is very testament to to kind of the world as it stands. That we do have Asia in the world now, but primarily China first in the world and then Asia in the world. And I think we are seeing the emergence of other countries from Asia kind of jump on into the platform of world stages and world theatres to kind of play out their roles. So I think that China is quite important in the world. It's significantly developed from where it was 15 years ago. And where it was 15 years ago, I think it can be seen from kind of the newspapers and various other kind of identifying factors of China 15 years ago. I think it was very much an agriculture based China, growing rice for most of its population. I think they were based in rice fields within China. And I think that that was kind of the landscape of China, kind of rice fields and cultivated lands of China in kind of the countryside. So I think that that is quite important and distinctive. That China does come in a relatively short period of time from this agrarian agriculture type of background with its rice fields and farming background with most of its population, including its peasants and things, to more of a modern advanced economy that has moved maybe most of its half of its population into cities, large urban cities. I think we've witnessed the migration of half of the Chinese population into large major cities in China, perhaps 10 of the major cities of China, and five of the big ones. But I think with this migration of the Chinese population into cities, we're seeing kind of a commitment and a dedication to developing the Chinese country and economy to an advanced economy in the world, not so much based around rice fields and cultivation and agriculture, but on perhaps banking and services to drive its population forward. And I think it is doing that as a communist country. So it's quite significant and special for doing that as China in the world. And I think that is quite distinguished in the world, quite remarkable. I think that China as a superpower has quite a lot of friends in the world, including Russia and maybe other Asian powers like Indonesia, maybe Vietnam and other communist countries as well. But I think China as a superpower is a rival to America. It kind of sets aside the democracy theme and school of thought to more of a communist ideology and school of thought that allows collectivism for the shared good and benefit of all people rather than just the individual. It's not just the individual happiness or an individual's happiness that is paramount, but I think it's the shared goals and benefits of all people that should come to the mind first. And I think that's the objective of China is to benefit as large as many people as possible, to bring hope and benefit to large populations, not just to individuals, and to benefit the whole world with its knowledge and wisdom. And I think that's one of the benefits of China. But I think that it is a rival with its own kind of inadequacy with human rights and other shortcomings. So there are challenges in China which I think have to be kind of grasped as well. I think China does have issues with human rights and challenges with human rights, and that obviously will be a challenge to China as well in the future, especially as a superpower. So I think that's one of the issues around China as a superpower, and I think that's what we'll see in the future. China as some kind of a superpower in the world. Thank you very much.